Something is quietly happening inside your body right now, and most people over 60 have no idea it is even going on. You wake up in the morning and you already feel tired. Not just a little groggy, actually tired. Like you slept, but the sleep did not do anything. You get through your morning slowly, maybe sit down more than you used to, and by the afternoon, the couch is calling your name. You tell yourself it is normal. You tell yourself this is just what getting older feels like. But what if it is not? What if the exhaustion you are feeling has nothing to do with age and everything to do with a few hidden problems that no one ever told you about? My name is Dr. Ronald, and I have spent years working with patients just like you. Today, I want to talk to you honestly about something I see all the time in my practice. People over 60 who are genuinely suffering with low energy, and they are blaming themselves or blaming their age when the real causes are sitting right below the surface. Treatable, often reversible, just unknown. And before we go any further, if this sounds like something your family or a friend needs to hear, I want to ask you to share this video and consider subscribing if you want more honest, practical guidance just like this. Drop a yes in the comments right now if you want to feel stronger, sharper, and more independent than you do today. You would be surprised how many people are watching this and feeling exactly what you are feeling right now. So let us start at the beginning. Energy is not something that just disappears overnight. It does not vanish because you turn 60 or 65 or 70. What actually happens is more gradual and more complicated, and it involves systems inside your body that are silently struggling, often for months or even years before you start to notice. Let me tell you about Margaret. Margaret was 67 years old, a grandmother of 4, and until a couple of years ago, she had been one of those people who never sat still. She gardened, she babysat, she walked every morning. Then, slowly, things started to shift. The walks got shorter. The gardening became a chore. She started declining invitations because she simply did not have the energy. Her family noticed, but Margaret told them the same thing she told herself. I am just getting older. This is how it goes. It was not until her daughter practically dragged her to the doctor that something real was discovered. Margaret had a silent thyroid problem that had been draining her for years. A simple blood test, a simple treatment, and within a few months, she was back in her garden. Not because she was young again, but because the real problem had finally been found and addressed. The thyroid gland is one of the most overlooked causes of low energy in people over 60. It sits quietly in your neck, and it controls the speed of nearly every process in your body. Your metabolism, your heart rate, your temperature, your mood, your thinking. When it slows down, a condition called hypothyroidism, everything slows with it. You feel heavy, foggy, cold, and deeply tired. And because these symptoms creep in gradually, and because they look a lot like what many people assume is normal aging, they go undetected for a very long time. Research from the American Thyroid Association suggests that thyroid dysfunction becomes more common as we get older, and that it is more frequently missed in people over 60 than in any other age group. A simple TSH blood test is all it takes to check. If you have not had one recently, it is worth asking your doctor about. But the thyroid is just one piece of this puzzle. Here is something that might surprise you. One of the biggest hidden causes of fatigue after 60 is iron deficiency. And it does not just happen to young women, as many people assume. Older adults can develop iron deficiency quietly, through very slow bleeding in the digestive tract, through reduced absorption from food, or through a diet that simply does not have enough iron-rich foods anymore. And the result is anemia. Less iron means less hemoglobin. Less hemoglobin means your blood cannot carry oxygen as efficiently as it should. And when your muscles and your brain are not getting the oxygen they need, everything feels harder. Climbing stairs feels like climbing a mountain. A simple conversation becomes mentally exhausting, and you feel breathless in situations that never used to bother you. Think about it this way. Imagine trying to run a car engine with only half the fuel it needs. The car will still move, but it will struggle. It will hesitate. It will not go far before it starts to sputter. That is what anemia does to your body. What most people do not realize is that anemia in older adults often produces symptoms that are quiet rather than dramatic. You might not feel dizzy or obviously pale. You might just feel dull, flat, like someone turned the brightness down on your whole life. Again, a blood test, this time checking ferritin and hemoglobin, can reveal this almost instantly. It is not complicated, but it has to be looked for. Now let me tell you about something that is perhaps the most underestimated cause of low energy in the whole conversation about aging. Sleep. Not just the quantity of sleep, but the quality of it. Because this is where a lot of older adults are being quietly betrayed. Harold was 72, a retired engineer, sharp as a tack during the day, but increasingly struggling to concentrate by the afternoon. He was sleeping 7 hours a night. On paper, that looked fine. But Harold's wife had noticed something. He snored. Not just a gentle snore, a loud, stop-and-start kind of snoring, with moments that almost sounded like he stopped breathing entirely. Harold had obstructive sleep apnea, and he had no idea. Sleep apnea is a condition where the airway partially collapses during sleep, causing the person to partially wake up, often dozens or even hundreds of times a night, without ever fully remembering it. The body never gets into the deep, restorative stages of sleep. It is like trying to charge a phone that keeps getting unplugged every few minutes. In the morning, the battery is still flat. Studies from the National Institutes of Health estimate that sleep apnea affects a significant portion of older adults, and that the majority of cases remain undiagnosed. The consequences go beyond fatigue. Poor sleep is linked to increased risk of heart disease, memory problems, depression, and even falls. If you snore, if you wake up feeling unrefreshed no matter how many hours you sleep, if you find yourself dozing off during the day, this is something worth investigating with a sleep study. It is more accessible now than it has ever been, and the treatment can be genuinely life-changing. And while we are talking about sleep, let me bring up something that connects directly to it, and to energy in general. Vitamin D. This is one of those nutrients that sounds simple, but has an enormous reach inside the human body. Vitamin D supports your immune system, your muscle strength, your bone density, and critically, your mood and your energy levels. And deficiency in vitamin D is extraordinarily common in older adults, particularly those who spend less time outdoors, those living in cloudy or cold climates, and those with darker skin tones. Here is the thing that catches most people off guard. Vitamin D deficiency does not usually cause dramatic symptoms. It causes slow ones. Aching muscles that you attribute to arthritis. A low mood that you call seasonal sadness. A heaviness in your body that you assume is just age. A general lack of drive that you mistake for laziness. And all of it, can be connected to a nutrient your body stopped making enough of, often years ago. A blood test checking your 25-hydroxy-vitamin D level takes seconds to order. Supplements are inexpensive and widely available. And for many older adults, correcting a vitamin D deficiency can produce a noticeable improvement in energy, mood, and physical strength within weeks. But here is something I want to pause on for a moment. Because this next one surprises even people who consider themselves fairly health conscious. Dehydration. Yes, simple, plain, under-discussed dehydration. As we get older, the sensation of thirst becomes less reliable. The kidneys become less efficient at conserving water. Certain medications, and many older adults are taking multiple medications, can increase fluid loss. And the result is that a large number of people over 60 are walking around in a state of mild to moderate chronic dehydration without ever feeling obviously thirsty. Even mild dehydration, as little as 1 to 2% of body weight lost in fluid, can cause measurable drops in concentration, physical performance, and energy levels. It can cause headaches that feel like something more serious. It can worsen joint pain. It can make your heart work harder to pump blood through a system that does not have enough volume to work with. The fix sounds almost too simple. Drink water consistently throughout the day. Not when you feel thirsty, because by then, the body is already behind. Small amounts, regularly, across the whole day. Herbal teas count. Watery fruits and vegetables count. Soups count. But plain water is still the most direct and effective option. I want to bring up one more hidden cause that I think deserves more attention than it gets. It is something called mitochondrial decline. Now, I know that sounds technical, so let me put it in simple terms. Inside almost every cell in your body, there are tiny structures called mitochondria. Their job, their only job, is to convert the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe into usable energy. They are essentially the power generators of the human body. After 60, the efficiency and the number of these mitochondria naturally begin to decline. But what research is increasingly showing is that this decline is not entirely inevitable. It is significantly influenced by lifestyle. Mitochondria respond to physical activity. Regular movement, even gentle, consistent movement, stimulates the production of new mitochondria and improves the function of existing ones. This means that sitting still is not just unhelpful, it is actively making the energy problem worse. And the more sedentary someone becomes, the faster the decline progresses, and the harder it becomes to do the things that would help reverse it. It is a cycle. And the way to break the cycle is to move, even a little, even gently, even on the days you do not feel like it. Walking is extraordinary for this. So is resistance exercise, even very light resistance, using bands or body weight, because muscle tissue is particularly rich in mitochondria. Building and maintaining muscle after 60 is not just about strength or appearance. It is about sustaining the biological machinery that generates your energy. There is also growing research suggesting that certain nutrients support mitochondrial health, including CoQ10, magnesium, and B vitamins. These are worth discussing with your doctor, particularly if your diet has become more limited over time. Which brings me to diet in general, because this matters more than most people realize. Many older adults gradually reduce the variety and quantity of what they eat. Sometimes because appetite decreases, sometimes because cooking becomes more effort, sometimes because dental problems make certain foods harder to enjoy. And over time, a quieter, smaller diet can create a range of deficiencies that chip away at energy. B12, folate, magnesium, zinc, potassium. B12 in particular is worth highlighting, because B12 deficiency is remarkably common after 60, and it is one of those things that can sit quietly in the background for years while steadily affecting your energy, your memory, your mood, and your nervous system. The stomach becomes less efficient at extracting B12 from food as we age. Certain medications, particularly metformin, which is used for diabetes, and proton pump inhibitors, used for acid reflux, further reduce B12 absorption. A blood test will tell you where you stand. Let me tell you about one more person before we begin to bring this all together. James was 71 years old and had described himself as someone who was just winding down. He had retired, slowed his activity, started spending most of his time indoors. He thought the tiredness and the heaviness he felt was simply what retirement looked like. It was his daughter who pushed him to see a doctor. Turns out James had three things working against him simultaneously: low vitamin D, early anemia, and a diet that had become nutritionally thin over time. None of these things was catastrophic on its own, but together, they had been quietly draining him for years. With a combination of targeted supplements, a few dietary adjustments, and a gentle but consistent walking routine, James described feeling better at 72 than he had felt at 69. Not younger, but genuinely better, more present, more himself. That is the point I want to leave you with. Low energy after 60 is not your destiny. It is not something you are required to accept as the price of growing older. In many cases, in a surprising number of cases, there is something real going on, something identifiable, something addressable. The first step is not accepting that the tiredness is just life. The first step is asking why. A conversation with your doctor, a few simple blood tests, and an honest look at sleep, hydration, movement, and nutrition can reveal things that have been hiding in plain sight for years. You deserve to feel strong. You deserve to feel present. You deserve to wake up in the morning with energy that actually lasts through the day. Not because you are competing with younger people, but because you still have things to do. People to love. Life to live. And your body, even now, even at this age, has a remarkable capacity to respond when you give it what it needs. If this video helped you today, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Like it if it was useful. Leave a comment below. Tell me yes if you are committed to understanding your body better and protecting your energy. And subscribe if you want to keep getting information like this, explained honestly and gently from someone who genuinely wants you well. There is one more thing I want to share with you. Something that connects sleep, nutrition, muscle, and energy in a way that most people have never been told. And I will be covering that in detail in the next video. So stay close. You are not alone in this, and it is not too late. The information shared in this video is based on trusted medical knowledge. Sources include the World Health Organization, National Institutes of Health, Mayo Clinic, Harvard Medical School, Cleveland Clinic.